Hello and welcome back to number 5 of Lamine's Legacy. So today this video is actually centered around a brand new team that we've made. I'm doing post-com again because there was nothing interesting discussed whilst I was playing the game, so back to post-commentary. But yeah, we've kept the same 4-5-1 formation that we've been using for quite some time now, but we've decided to bring in some new players, more specifically Hincapi, who is absolutely brilliant. I'd recommend him to anyone that has a Premier League team or can find different ways into getting them into your team. He is phenomenal. He's probably third best centre back I've used at this point, and I'll come on to the other two a bit later. I also brought in Mariona, which helps out with Incapi Chem to play as my left centre mid. She's good. I've already sold her, but she is good. She probably is worth the 50k. You know, it's not too much to get a card like that, and definitely good enough and worth the 50,000 coins. But I wanted to try out some other centre mids and some slightly different formations. I wanted to play some 4-4-1-1, and I looked to get a different cam. So that's why she got sold, but it wasn't because she's particularly bad. Then we also brought in our most expensive purchase for the team, which was Victor Gyökeres. So Gyökeres in this game is tough to play against, and that's what really got me to consider testing him out and buying him. And yeah, there's no wonder why he's hard to play against. He's genuinely amazing in game. Picked him up for like 200-ish thousand coins, somewhere around that, maybe like 215. But yeah, he is ridiculous. Once he gets going, there's no stopping him. If you can actually craft and create your chances in a way that gets him through on goal, you know, if you're playing on the counters or you're playing sort of through balls and lob through balls, then he is like nothing I've used this year. He is exceptional. He is so strong. His finishing is so good on both feet, even though it's only a 4-star weak foot. But yeah, he is phenomenal. That Enforcer Plus playstyle is weird, and I don't think people truly know how to use it to its full ability yet, and I certainly wasn't particularly good with it. But you will see in the clips, and I can tell you from experience that when you activate it with L2, like sometimes it just comes off in a way that seems really broken, and by broken I mean overpowered. You kind of just can't get tackled, and it does this weird sort of like animation where you sort of get agility and balance. It just allows you to like spin people without doing a skill move of any kind. It's incredibly weird, and whilst I understand that Ruud Gullit wouldn't be, you know, in many people's teams, I can only imagine what he's like in centre mid, as he also has the playstyle. So yeah, that Enforcer Plus is something to watch out for, because I know some lower rated cards and currently unusable cards have it, but as promos and SBCs and things come out, you could see some cards that have interesting dynamics if they end up having the playstyle. I don't think I've used a card yet that has the silver version, so I'm not quite sure on the difference between the two. You know, I don't know if the gold is so much better. But yeah, definitely an interesting playstyle and one that I would keep an eye out for if you are planning on building a team or testing out some new players. But yeah, that's sort of all for the sort of new players in my team in this video. But in the next video, you will notice a different team again. So I'm at this stage at the moment where I want to test out cards and I want to bring new players into the team because I'm getting a little bored of using the same players that I have since the start. And so I've been essentially looking at players I want to test and building my teams based around my untradables, but bringing in obviously tradable cards to complement them. I've also had a bit more pack luck, which is just very typical that the two packs that I'm talking about, is actually packs that I didn't record. So I played for like hours, and I wasn't happy with the footage. There was nothing really to show. Didn't feel like I had anything to sort of upload. And I went offline, or I went off stream. Didn't have my recording set up in OBS. And I opened I think it was like a 75 double from some objective from playing the game. And Marcus Llorente was in there. So that was a huge pull. I'm playing him at right back. He's incredible. Is he worth the 70-odd thousand coins that he's currently worth on the market? At right back, he probably is. You know, I've only used him at right back, although we can play centre mid and right mid. I wouldn't play him at centre mid, not in this game. He doesn't have any of the passing play styles. He's a bit tall. Like you kind of want the agile, sort of tricky midfielders in this game, and he's definitely not that. But at right back, where there's a real lack of options in the game anyway, he does offer something different. You know, people are obviously going to be using the likes of Frimpong and if they have high budget, Hakimi, which are just very similar fullbacks. They, you know, sort of short, incredibly fast, offer a lot going forward, but not necessarily in defense. He's different because he's not as good as going forward as them, but he is significantly better in defense than they are, and I've definitely noticed that. I've been using some really average right backs up until I've packed Llorente. First one I used was Pedro Porro, and I used him for like, well, the game's been out to say what, 10 days, and I probably used him for 6 of those. Real average card, no point in using him unless it's for Gauntlet or something to that extent. It's just not worth it. And he was obviously, you know, worth his price or resembled his price of, which is probably discarded like 700 coins. And then I moved on to Trent, which you see in Trent in this gameplay. I packed him from Squad Battles rewards, which I did play in week 1 just to try and get some extra packs. But you won't see Squad Battles on my channel unless there's like an objective that you really want to pick up. I just don't have fun playing offline gameplay, and so you won't see a ton of Squad Battles in this series or on this channel, or if you can't come over to the live streams, chances are I won't be playing Squad Battles. But yeah, Trent came from those packs, and he was okay. Again, I don't think I really have anything to say about him. He didn't impress me going forward. He didn't impress me in defense. He was just like your typical right back. There's really nothing to say about him, but you can really feel the upgrade from Llorente to both Porro and Trent. And then at centre back, I also managed to pick up Jules Koundé, which I got him from the daily. I think it's 77 pluses you can do. Yeah, again, I decided to go offline, realised I hadn't done them, did them on my phone on the web app, and he popped out, which I screenshotted it, so that will be in the next video alongside. I went and clipped the Llorente pack, so they will both be in the next episode, but they're not the type of content that you'd used to seeing with them coming out of packs live, as if I was streaming or won the game correctly. But yeah, Jules Koundé is definitely the best centre back I've used. He's by far the best centre back I've used. I've used quite a lot of good centre backs now. I am still missing out on using Van Dijk, and I am still missing out on using Saliba. But when playing against Saliba, I don't think he's going to be as good as what Koundé offers. The sort of the pace and the like jockey plus, somehow the strength, like Koundé plays way above his stats. He's a joke. I don't really know how else to say it. And the difference between someone like Koundé and someone like Konate, who I've used a lot from packing him untradeable, is that Koundé seems to get better game by game as I'm climbing the divisions. Konate seems to be getting worse. So I've used Konate all the way from Division 6 up to Division 3. I haven't played any Division 3 games, but I am in Division 3. And he's nowhere near as good as Koundé. And I've used Koundé since Division 4. So you can sort of tell the difference there as you come up against different caliber of players and things like that. But he's so far clear of Konate, and so far clear of every other centre back that I've used. You heard me talk about Hincapié being brilliant at the start of the video, and that hasn't changed just because I've used Koundé. Hincapié is brilliant, but even compared to Koundé, Hincapié is average. I cannot stress enough how incredible Koundé is as a card. If you somehow have the coins to spend 160 or maybe 170 on a centre back, then go for it. I honestly haven't used one that comes close. But obviously the type of price that I'm talking about is ridiculous for a centre back, especially when we're talking 10 days into the game. Could you imagine if it was 10 weeks and it was this power curve? But yeah, 10 days into the game, and if you do have the coins for the centre back, that's the one I recommend. Partnering him, I still have Konate because he's untradeable, and I always have this thing where I can't just put an untradeable card in my club if there's merit of using him. Like, he's not so bad that I want to just forget about having him and use him as fodder, but it does make it difficult for me to justify spending any amount of coins on a centre back when I have Konate there. But other centre backs I've used recently that you wouldn't have seen in gameplay is actually Gvardiol, and he is like essentially a cheap Hincapié. He's better at So the block plus playstyle essentially makes him better in unique situations where you need to block shots. But his recovery pace is not as good as Hincapi's, which is obvious. There's about a 6 pace difference between the cards. And yeah, you can really tell that. But if you can't afford Hincapi, because I understand even 35,000 coins or however much he costs right now is a lot for a centre back, then go and get Gvardiol for like 5.5, 6 if you're patient and you want to pick him up with a shadow. You won't regret using Gvardiol. He is also exceptional. So whether that's for your main team or you're a bit higher budget and you think you want some Gauntlet players ready for tonight, because I'm recording this about an hour before Gauntlet starts, which I won't be playing tonight. I'll actually have to play mine tomorrow day, and I'll get that video up and recorded at some point this week. I wish I could have a more consistent schedule, but I just really can't right now. So I really don't know when the video will go up, other than it will be this week. But yeah, if you're looking for a Gauntlet centre-back or one for your team, or you need some sort of Croatian/Man City links, Gvardiol is a brilliant option for you. There's not long left in this video. I think there's about 5 minutes, so we're about 2/3 of the way through the video. And I want to address something that I think I saw in the Panthers tweeting about. And that was essentially that the game actually sucks at the higher divisions. Because I think if you ask most creators or most people in the community at the moment, the gameplay aspect of the game is being viewed as very positive. And there's definitely reasons that make sense as to why the game is being seen as positive, especially when you look at sort of the attacking versus the AI defending. But as Nepenthe sort of points out, and I do agree with him, and I do believe he's correct, the game is from a defensive standpoint just as AI as ever, just not at the lower divisions. You know, the lower divisions, you are playing, of course you're playing less caliber players, but you're playing people that are just playing the game. Now, in previous years, when you're playing people that are just playing the game, the AI defending has still been so strong that it's been unfun. It's still been challenging to break them down because the AI is so powerful. But in this year's game, when you're playing against low caliber players who are just playing for fun, the whole game is open. Like, every single player is an opportunity. Every single player is a chance to, create opportunities and score goals, because of how spread out and the movement from the centre backs and the CDMs and that sort of thing. But when you start to climb up the divisions and people understand the game, people put effort into the game, people want to win, you realise quite quickly that AI is just as prevalent. And how AI is just as prevalent is done in a couple of ways. You still have the bog standard AI CDM tracking, which is just, you hold a CDM and you don't switch off them. That's been around for, I don't know, maybe like since FIFA 17. It's been in the game for ages. And yeah, that still exists. However, it's not quite as strong. It still is strong, but not quite as strong as previous years. But the other ways in which AI defending is even stronger this year is through your ability to press and defend with your forward line. Now, for me, the most difficult formation to play against is the 4-4-2. And the reason for the 4-4-2 is so hard to play against is because what good players will do, and what separates them from bad players, is they will track back with one striker or either wide midfielder. So they'll either track back with the left or right mid, depending on the side the game's being played on. Or initially they'll track back with the striker before switching to the wide midfielder. And what ends up happening is that it creates such a compact sort of field that they still have 10 men behind the ball anyway. But the difference this year, and why I think it's more deadly to play like this way in this year, is because what it offers then when you counter. So although they will drag a striker down all the way towards like a CDM position, and they will drag left and right mids towards left back positions, as soon as you don't have a successful a chance, so you haven't scored a goal, they can still drill it up to one striker, and the other striker has natural movement to already get further up the pitch. And essentially they only have to play one pass into a centre mid, which will exist towards where the centre mid should be. And all of a sudden they can create their attack from there, all whilst defending with a forward line as opposed to a back line. Now, if you play a narrow formation or a slightly more narrow formation compared to the 4-4-2, you essentially run into a massive trouble centrally, which allows and plays into this 4-4-2 sort of compact defensive AI build-up. And yeah, it's just incredibly difficult to deal with when players in 4-4-2, 4-2-2, and 4-1-2-1-2 decide to play this way. So if you are really struggling with defending, and although I'm going to recommend it to those of you that are, it's gonna spoil the game. You just have to make your team really compact by defending with the right players, which, logically should be your centre mids in the middle of the park, and then your full backs if people play out wide, or your centre backs if people play towards your final third. But it's not. It's going to be your strikers and your wide midfielders, or your wide cams, depending on how the specific formation in which you're playing. But yeah, I do agree with Nepenthez that in high elo champs and high elo rivals, this game is going to suck if something isn't done about people's ability to do that. Now, how they fix it, I don't know. They might have to do a stamina type of change again, where you just get really penalised for just dragging people all around the pitch. But yeah, at the moment it's not good at high levels. It's not the sunshines and rainbows that maybe people are making out to believe. But yeah, that's all for this video. I just wanted to touch on the comments that Nepenthez made and just say that I'm actually in massive agreement with him. And I think other creators will be as they climb the divisions and get more time on the game. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the highlights. I'm going to actually change up my editing style moving forward because I understand this editing style is probably not great. And I'm going to continue to improve on my craft. But the gameplay you just watched was essentially my 30 Rivals points for this week. I appreciate you watching the video and hopefully you click into the next one. Goodbye.